Information. How organized you and your people are around information. Can you grade yourself? So the purpose of information is not knowledge. It's actually being able to take the right action. Because there's so much information. The question is like, what do you do with this, right? So, without being able to manage your information, you will have a huge mess in the business. And it's important that we set up standards, operational procedures on where do you store information, where do you track information, and how do you share information in your organization. Information movement have to be really smooth in the business and fast. Number one, where do you store information? Remember that information belongs to the company and it has to be secure, which means is that if your employees are producing some sort of information, you have to have secure access to that and you should own that. Means that if the person leaves, this information will not be lost. Super important. And every employee must know locations where necessary information is, and every employee must know where to store information so it's secured and it belongs to the company. If you're using Google Drive, then like we said, your task is to choose the platform where you store information. And for us, for instance, we are using Google Drive. And in the Google Drive, we have made an email address that belongs to the company. We control that email address, and they are allowed to access our information only with that email. And they can only create new information with that email to specific folders we have set for them. And so the task you have is choose the platform where you store information. Maybe you want to use Dropbox, maybe you want a Google Drive, maybe you want to use some other form of cloud service. And the second task is create SOP training where you store information for roles. Like you need to tell people where information is and where and how should they store information. Otherwise, they will start making files and folders like where it's not necessary, and when they leave, they take all the files with them, and you will lost a big chunk from your business. This is extremely important. Don't skip that. The bigger your company becomes, and if you haven't set this up really strictly, you're going to be having a huge mess in the future. Number two, where do you track information? Every leader knows what gets measured gets done. In order to build a self-organizing team, organization has to provide them necessary information so they can make smart decisions. Don't hold information back if you want people to become mature and self-organized and like individual thinkers. We must also make sure that roles in a team know how to track and measure their work performance in order to improve it, right? How can you improve anything if you don't know how to measure it? So we have to make sure that every role in a business knows how to track their work. Remember this, extremely important. So they have to be able to take accountability on delivering results, preferably some KPIs and of course OKRs. And the best way is when information is tracked and measured in one place per team. Another thing, we have made this mistake. People have trackers all over the place. But you know, the problem is that they cannot access each other trackers because, you know, one guy has tracker here, one other guy has another file. And so we have to gather this information to one place where the whole team can see what other team member is tracking, their KPIs, and so on. Everything you're tracking should be in one place. Remember that. Extremely important. So me walk you through the example of the team weekly executive summary of metrics and KPIs. And every leader actually even has its own executive summary and KPIs. If you have many teams, then you have your own. But let me walk you through. And this is just an example, guys. So it's a random example for you. So you can build your own, you can have it in different tool, wherever you want, right? So first is information. Like I said, where are the folders, links, documents that you're using, what roles, what they are using, and keep it organized. Keep things in one place where everybody can access it. Your team, your names of the people, roles they have, what kind of tabs they own. These are tracking tabs, trackers. And so the purpose of the role, responsibilities for, this is where I told you that, you need to write down what are you expecting from these people. So if you want to fire them, you need to point to this area here and say you violated this completely, for instance. KPIs to improve, same thing. If you want to fire people, then this is the KPI. You look at the KPIs because we are working for delivering results, not just showing up, right? And the core processes, they are accountable to improve, right? Things down here. And so your whole team is like in one view in this one place. Like, for instance, performance. If you track CFRs, you can make performance tracker here to the circle lead. Circle lead is responsible for performance. Total tab. This is what people look every single week on a weekly planning. Like, this is what circle lead has to deliver to the team. What are the expenses per week, how much budget we have, what's the team profit, what's the target profit we have, what's the orders quantity, what's the target orders quantity, what's the last year orders quantity same week, how much bonus you're going to pay them if they achieve this particular targets here, right? So this is the totals on the big picture scale, how your team is doing weekly to weekly basis. And of course, you can see that, for let's say listing optimizer here has the sales tab, which is all about sales, different markets where you're doing sales. You could also have logistics as an inventory tab where they track inventory performance index, this is for the Amazon business, for instance. And you can set those tabs here yourself, for the ads, whatever, right? And I told you that on a daily huddle, we go through the study. That's how it looks like. We have a study information here, books, trainings, and we have, if you studied something, you get a point. If you didn't study, you get a 0. And so this way we look what's the score at the end of the month, and this is where we also build the recognition system on top of it. It's up to you how you do that, right? So like I said, this is just a tracker where people are tracking their own jobs, own things in their own tabs here: expenses, research development, inventory, ads, customer service, And the point here is that people track their own KPIs if they have one, or if they track something else on a weekly basis, then they build this tracker into this document. They don't build trackers anywhere else. And even if they have trackers anywhere else, they can put links here or whatever, right? And so we need to consider that all the information that is necessary for smart information, for smart action, is one place. Remember the quote Peter Drucker said, it's not about the knowledge, it's about smart actions. It's about better actions. So if we are tracking things, then the reason we are tracking things is to see trends. And to see trends, we can make better smart actions. And so whatever we are tracking should enable us to make smart decisions. And let's gather all the things we track in one place, right? And that's why we speak about the tracking information. Now, how do you share information? So, by sharing information, we are speaking about day-to-day operations where one role finishes a task, then hands it over to another employee. Delegation process we spoke before also takes part here, and some requirements to the day-to-day operations tool. If you're using tools like Trello, stuff like that, then every action and project has to have a person accountable. Every action and project has to be deadline, discussion and file sharing inside the project tool is critical, and Here are some management tools. Asana, really cool tool. You can create projects, it can create actions. Inside actions, you can create sub-actions. Every action can have a like person accountable. Every action can have a deadline. You can build milestones. You can set priorities. You can discuss inside actions and inside projects. You can share files inside projects. And it's really, really fast information sharing tool. Monday.com, not so good, more easier to use, but then again, you cannot create sub tasks inside actions. So you have a project, you have an action inside there, that's it. On Asana, you can create inside that action is also sub actions, which is cool. If you have just few people use Google Docs, like we introduced you last time, the weekly planning, and Trello, it's a free. So the problem for me in Trello was that sub actions inside the card don't have accountabilities and deadlines.